Welcome back to the FIT40 Podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy parents 40 plus so they can improve their health and feel amazing. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach for people over 40 since 2015. And today we have an awesome topic. We're going to answer the question, are warm-ups a waste of time? Okay, because there are some people out there who are very, very opinionated in the way that they say warm-ups are a gigantic waste of time. It's just causing you to take more time in the gym where you could be spending it elsewhere on certain exercises that are going to benefit you more, doing more work instead of more warm up. So we're going to dive into the details of exactly why you should or should not do a warm up and if you actually need to do one at all. All right. But before we do, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button if you haven't yet, wherever you're watching or listening, so that way you don't miss another episode. Because not only am I going to be on here every single week dropping awesome tips, but I've got awesome expert guests lined up in the future coming up, and I'm very, very excited for you to listen to them as well. So definitely be sure to subscribe or follow. It doesn't cost you a penny. You just click and you're in. All right, so let's talk about it. Are warm-ups a waste of time? So some say you don't have to do warm-ups like these dynamic warm-ups and these in-depth warm-ups where you're targeting every little thing. Now, as all things kind of are, it's true as long as you don't go too far on either end of that spectrum, because there are some people who will prescribe warm-ups where you are hitting every single joint, and it's a very PT style approach where it's like you're basically spending 30, 40, sometimes even more minutes working on the warm-up aspect. So it's like you're doing all this prep work, all this stuff to get your body ready to go, and then you have no time to actually do anything about it, and you don't get any sort of a fitness effect. So it's like, yeah, we're feeling good, but did we increase our muscle mass? No. Did we create any sort of improvement in our cardiorespiratory fitness? No. But we don't, or we feel like we're ready to do all these things, and it kind of just defeats the purpose. It's like we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So we don't want to be on that end where we're doing so much of a warm up. But on the other side of it is the stereotypical, like, let's just say who it is. It's usually the bros that will roll into the gym, put on whatever weight they used last time onto the bar or the machine and just go. And if you ask enough people who have done that, usually doesn't end well. Yeah, they're probably good for few months, maybe even years of getting away with it, but eventually something gives, and it's usually not too pretty. There's always somebody at the gym like that, and then those people usually double down and they're like, it wasn't because I didn't do a warm-up, it was because that exercise is bad. Deadlifts are horrible for you, or everything with the barbell's horrible for you. And it's like, no, you just jumped in way before you were ready, and you didn't give your body the prep that it needed so that it was ready for it. So that being said, we want to land in the middle. Okay. We want something that gets us warm, gets us ready to go, and it exposes us to different ranges of motion and all these things. And it warms our tissue temperature, all these good things before we get going, so that way we're operating at our best. Okay. Because my personal belief is that you should be doing a dynamic warm-up and warm-up sets. It's not, just go into the gym and start with lightweight and then work yourself up from there. That could work in a pinch. Like if you are tight on time, and honestly, I've done it so many times where it's like, okay, I'm just going to jump right into the workout, and then I'll do a couple extra warm-up sets. That's cool. That's one way to do it, but you're leaving a lot to be desired when you do that, because when you do a dynamic warm-up, it, number one, helps a lot more with everyday tasks outside of the gym. If all you want to do is whatever exercises are on the menu for that day, and that's all you want to do, which is mostly sagittal plane, which is like forward to back, things like squatting, benching, lat pull down, rows, all this front to back stuff, then cool. But if you have a normal life where sometimes you got to do stuff side to side, sometimes you might have to twist your body here and there, it helps to have exposure to that. And one of the best ways to do that is during a dynamic warm-up. So that way, when you go into the back seat of your car and twist, you don't hurt your shoulder doing that. I've actually had clients tell me that they have done that before starting up. And then also, just any awkward angles, because a lot of injuries surface because we are just not used to that angle with that load. So this could be a nice way to kind of gently expose yourself to those different angles, so that way, if you're picking up a kid or a pet or a piece of furniture or something like that, and you've never done that at that angle before, this gives you a little taste of that. So it's like, yeah, maybe you still feel a little sore or stiff or achy after doing that, but it's not like a full blown injury because you're like, whoa, never been there. That happens a lot too with like athletes, for example, when their training is just the bro bodybuilding stuff, they leave themselves very compromised on the field because they haven't exposed themselves to these angles with heavier loads. And then when they do that, when they cut or when they jump and they land ever so awkwardly in that one way, pop. Okay. So we don't want that to happen, which is a reason for the dynamic warm up. And what else did I have here? We want to make sure we're checking certain boxes like rotation, like I just talked about, but also balance. I do balance work every damn day somebody comes in here because balance is super important as you age because the risk of fall goes up as we age. It's just kind of part of the deal when you start losing muscle mass and when you start losing coordination, whether that's due to just aging or medical conditions or things like that. So balance is a very, very big thing because if you do fall and break a hip, for example, that speeds up the mortality clock, and we don't want that. Okay, so balance is a big one. Rotation is a big one because we're human. We're always moving and twisting. And then the other thing too is conditioning. Some people can benefit from a dynamic warm-up, not so much just from like the joint angles and things like that, but just general conditioning. And if you're getting into the nerdy stuff on the exercise science, this is what we call GPP, general physical preparedness. And this is that first phase of training when people just start, or maybe if they're coming off of a very hyper specific block of training, like you see it with like powerlifters, for example, they peak for a meet. And then the second they're done with that, then it's okay, let's build the foundation back up. Let's get back to where we need to be. And for general population, like obviously I know not a lot of powerlifters are listening to me, but when we're talking general population, the average person, the everyday person who's over 40, general physical preparedness is a necessity. You need to be ready to go and do the things. So the way that we do that is obviously by strength training and doing conditioning that meets us at our level. But for some people, it literally could be just getting through the warm up and feeling like it's not as hard week after week after week. And that could be a really good way to improve your conditioning over time. So how do we do it? Like, how do we do all these things that I'm talking about? Like, what does that actually look like? So first off, like I like doing 4 things that hammer every part of our body that we really need to touch on before we get going. And that is number 1, balance. Like I said, balance is very important. So we got to do it. We do something for the hips, we do something for the shoulders, and then we do something for, I say the CNS, but my fiance will get mad at me. It's not the CNS, it's the PNS, the peripheral nervous system. It's how you feel yourself throughout space in the world, whatever. But something to get your body going and wake you up. That is the best way to put it. Okay, so let's go through it one by one. If you wanted to create your own warm up, do this for, like, I always put 30 seconds on the clock. So if it's single leg, then do 30 seconds per leg. Or if it's just both legs at the same time or both arms at the same time, then do 30 seconds just for that. So set the timer. And then for balance, you could do single leg wall taps is one of my absolute favorites. You're just balancing, reaching one foot back and tapping the wall and standing up and doing that over and over again for 30 seconds on one foot, 30 seconds on the other. Lunges are also really good for this. So you could do them either just out in space or you could hold on to something to help with your balance. And then as you get good at it, start letting go a little bit or use less pressure on your hand to support you and do lunges, whether that's backward lunges, forward lunges, lateral lunges, like side to side. If your knees are good to go and you're not compromised, like we don't have any meniscus stuff going on or anything like that, you could experiment with like curtsy lunges. And then also if you're not at that point yet where you can handle all that bending in the knee, you could do holds, literally just like stand with one foot up in the air and just hold it for 30 seconds. Just that balance work. If that is something that you can't quite do yet for 30 seconds, if you can get yourself to that point, that makes a huge, huge difference in just overall mortality risk. So it can help a lot with that. And then as you get good at holding it for 30 seconds, then it's like, okay, instead of your foot being about an inch off the ground, now drive that knee up to your waist and see if you could hold that and get your hip flexors fired up and ready to go and work them a little bit. Maybe you progress to doing it with your eyes closed. That's another really hard one, but it's a nice way to challenge yourself and get better at that skill. So that's that for balance. When it comes to hips, I love doing seated rotations where you're just sitting on the ground and you twist your knees side to side, because that gets internal and external rotation, which is really the goal with the hips, and also flexion and extension. So when I say internal, external rotation are like hip extension and flexion. Okay, hip flexion is basically like when you're sitting down and your knees are up towards your waist, you're in flexion. Or if you were standing up and you pulled your knee up to waist height, that's flexion. And then when you straighten them out, like your legs are totally straight and you're able to stand up straight, that's hip extension. And then internal and external rotation is your femur going like turning inward or turning outward. So I like doing the rotation on this and then doubling up with something like world's greatest stretch or something that I do for the shoulders. But you could do two stretches here where you do something to do the rotation and also the flexion extension. Sorry, I don't want to nerd out here. I don't want to get anybody lost in the weeds, so I'm going to pull back. So here you could do those seated rotations where you sit up really tall on the floor, like your hands are behind you, and you just turn your knees side to side and feel that pull kind of like on the inside and the outside of your butt cheek and your groin. Then we could do things like a half kneel stretch, or people might know this as a couch stretch, where you're on a knee and that back foot is elevated. So it's either on the couch if you're really good at this, but it could be as simple as putting it on a pillow or a foam roller, just enough to get your back foot up a little bit to pull on the front of your thigh, and that'll stretch out your front of your thigh and then eventually get up into your hip flexors, which is what we're talking about here. And then that'll help with the extension. When it comes to flexion, most people don't need to work that. They do need stronger hip flexors, but that I would attack in the workout, not necessarily in the warm up, really. And then there's shoulders. What do we do for the shoulders? We want to do the same thing. We want to think about flexion, extension, internal, external rotation, all these different things. And when we do that, my favorites are one, world's greatest stretch. If you just Google that, like you could see what it's all about. And then also anything that would be classified as a T-spine rotation. And T-spine is your thoracic spine, that upper half of your spine, that like rounded part that's just above the lumbar. Okay, that we want to be mobile. We want it to be able to twist back and forth. And a lot of people just don't have that great emotion there. Just watch any average person's golf swing. That'll show you real quick. So anything that we could do to twist and open that up. Or another really good one too is hangs. So if we're talking about flexion extension, like going overhead, okay, you could do hangs where you just literally hold onto a pull-up bar, or maybe put the TRX straps all the way up and then just hold on to them and bend your knees a little bit. Like you could still have your feet on the floor, but you could adjust for how much weight you're actually giving yourself while you're doing this. Okay. And then there's pec and lat stretch. So you could put your arm against the doorway and stretch out the front of your chest, or you could hold on to the doorway and sit back and let it pull on the back of your shoulder. These are really good too, especially if you can't quite twist when you're doing a T-spine rotation. Sometimes you just got to loosen it up and stretch it out a little bit. So I would do like a little bit of a stretch and relax, stretch and relax. So that way it's a little bit more dynamic and it's not just a static stretch. Not saying that static stretching is bad, but if you want to get a little more blood flow in there and make it a little bit more mobile, like the back and forth really helps a lot. And then last but not least is the central nervous system, or peripheral nervous system, okay? Something to wake you up and get you going. And this is stuff that's fast, it's quick. And these are these impulsive exercises that you can transfer to skills like catching yourself when you are catching yourself when you slip, or like when you lose your footing, like you step on the wrong stair and you got to grab the railing real quick. This is where you practice that skill. So some of my favorites are fast feet, like literally just going back and forth in place, or 2 steps forward, 2 steps backward, or 1 or 2 steps left, 2 steps right, and getting as many as possible in like 5 to 10 seconds. Or things like medicine ball slams. Medicine balls are like one of my favorite things for people over 40. Just be sure that you don't get the rubber ones that bounce all the way through the roof. Make sure it's a slam ball, or it's one of those leather ones that kind of deflate on the ground a little bit so it doesn't spring back up into your face. I have seen somebody do that where they were at a hotel gym and they threw it down and it bopped them in the face. Luckily they were okay, but from that point forward, I need to put this disclaimer in there. So yeah, medicine ball slams, any variation of that. You could just do straight slams. You could do rotational slams. If you have the blessing of a brick wall or just a wall that could take it, you could do scoop tosses into the wall or chest passes into the wall. Those are really fun. And do 5 reps, like not 5 like bop, bop, bop really fast. Do 5 hard singular reps where each one is harder and more impactful and powerful than the last. Same goes for jumps. So if you're able to jump and you don't have any ankle or knee stuff or low back stuff going on and you can handle jumping, then same for that. You could do jumping straight up. You could do broad jumps where you jump forward. You could do lateral jumps where you jump sideways. Stuff like that is really great. And also another one I totally forgot about, I didn't even put it in my notes, but if you have access to a sled, you could do some fun stuff there too. So with the sled, you could do like sled pushes, like where you literally just throw the sled forward and then step forward and then throw it forward again. Or you could do pulls. So if you have a longer like TRX strap or something where you're holding onto handles that are connected to the sled and you're able to pull back really hard without it hitting your feet, then you could do that 5 reps really explosively. So you pull and then take a couple steps back, get all the slack out of the straps, pull again, and then do it like that. There's so many things you could do for CNS, and it's so much fun. God, I got to get a sled in here. It's killing me that we don't have one just yet, but we will. Okay. And then last thing I have to say is just give this a try. If you're one of those people that hates doing a warm up and you're like, ugh, I just don't have the time. Like I need to get in, get out. Totally get that. But all I can say is just give it a try. Like 2 rounds. Do those 4 things. Do something for your balance, something for your hips, something for your shoulders, and something to wake you up a little bit. 2 rounds, ideally 3. It should only take 5 minutes. Okay. If you do 3, it should be about 10 minutes, but just give it a try. See if it makes your workout better. See if you feel better when you leave the gym or later on in the day, if your movement quality gets better, because that stuff does happen. All right. And if you heard this and you're like, man, that sounds awesome, but I don't even know how to put that together. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Don't worry. I got that taken care of for you. I've got 2 warm-ups right now. There's going to be a 3rd one. There's a body weight one, a kettlebell one, and soon to becoming a banded warm-up. Follow along on YouTube. So if you want to check that out, go ahead, click on it. If you're not already on my YouTube right now, I highly recommend doing so. Been going hard so far this year, and I'm going to only make it better as we go. YouTube is going to be like my home base. So yeah, go check that out. I'll link it down below. You can do one of the warm-ups right now and give it a try. And then along with that, always just know, if you know, hey, I need that accountability. I need somebody to set an appointment with, then that's what I'm here for. Whether you join us in person or on Zoom live for semi-private training, or if you're like, I don't have time for that and I need a workout that's more specific to my schedule, something quicker and more adjustable, then that's what the online accountability coaching is for. So if you just need the plan and want me to hold you accountable, we've got that too. So if you are kind of on the fence about it and you're not really sure, just set up a quick discovery call. You and me will chat about it, see if those options are right for you. And if they are, could literally change your life and get you going in an awesome direction. And also we got the FIT40 starter kit. So if you haven't grabbed that, that's got the free workouts, the follow along ones also on YouTube. It's also got nutrition guides and a 7-day reset calendar. Definitely check that out if you haven't already. All right, that's it. I'm done pushing my stuff. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I appreciate you being here. Until next time, go kick some ass. Bye-bye.